Hello, David Gans. How are you?
We're back. I'm good. I'm in a pretty good mood. My wife is on her way home from her 2.5 week trip down the Grand Canyon. So we will be reunited in the flesh tomorrow, and I could hardly be a happier camper than I already am.
Fantastic. And we're pretty happy because we are back to work after a night off. The band, having opened up the second leg of the tour in Charlotte and then Atlanta, has headed west. In fact, as David pointed out to me earlier, we are coming to you from 4 different time zones tonight.
That's
Um,
right.
I'm in Eastern time. The band and our friend Jacob Lima, who's making it possible for you to see and hear us, is in Central Time in Texas. Our guest tonight, who we'll talk about in just a moment, is in Mountain Time, and David's out there in the Pacific Zone. I hope Hawaii doesn't feel left out, but what can you do? Anyway, we're very happy to be here. And yeah, let's mention our guest tonight.
We're going to spend the break talking with Dave Glasser. He's a mastering engineer out at Airshow Mastering in Boulder, Colorado, and he has worked on audio and audio for DVD on a huge number of Grateful Dead projects over the last couple of decades. And he's a good friend. He's also a big old Deadhead going back to his own childhood in the 70s. So we'll have plenty to talk about. And as it happens, today on one of the Grateful Dead fan pages, somebody posted a photo of a vinyl disc with the name of a laboratory on it and some Grateful Dead tracks. And the question was, what is this? And we'll ask Dave Glasser to explain exactly what that was. As it happened, it was a good prompt to explain how vinyl records get made. That's one of Dave's areas of expertise.
And the whole science of mastering is a fascinating one. It has made incredible advances over the years with the advent of new technologies. And Dave Glasser is part of a breed that invisibly but crucially affects how amazing these Grateful Dead archival recordings and hundreds of other recordings people like Dave have worked on over the years sound. So we are in his debt.
I am also, I'm a happy customer. He's mastered a whole bunch of my records, so I'm a big fan of his work as well as a friend. So we're going to be talking to him during the break this evening on the program that we call Dead Air with Lambert and Gans. But right now our mission is to explain to you what's going on here with Nugs.net. If you're watching this free preview on Nugs.net, the channel over on Facebook or on YouTube, you're going to see us blathering here, and then you're going to hear the first song of the first set as streamed beautifully by Nugs.net. And then for the second set, we'll do the same thing. They'll come back to us between sets, and Gary and I will do our Dead Air program with Dave Glasser, as we mentioned. And then they'll show the beginning of the second set as well. The reason they do that is to entice you to fall in love with this music and to be impressed with the amazing audio and video quality that they're presenting, so that you will buy the stream and become a customer. And if you do that anytime during the course of the broadcast, you get a 48-hour license to watch it. So you can go back and watch any part that you missed, and you can watch the whole thing again. You can invite some friends over to watch it with them tomorrow night and experience the whole thing again. There are a whole bunch of different programs. You can get a whole season pass to see all of these video feeds, and that also includes going back to earlier ones that you may have missed. There's also a multitude of audio formats available for download, and I take advantage of that. I grab the downloads every night about an hour after the show is over to pull stuff for my radio shows. You can find out all about all of this stuff at livedead.co.
And we should mention, we just got word the entire band is on stage going into their pre-show huddle. So we might have a very short pre-show. We're just going to get that signal, the magic word, lights, and we'll just cut right away to the stage. No, wait, we're now told only five band
Okay,
members
we have
on
to keep
stage.
talking.
All right.
So I'm going to go back and
Okay.
recap the last show, because what I do, because I produce a music-oriented radio show, I get to play stuff from the tour. And the fact that I'm working every show on the tour means that I'm watching the shows live more. I usually catch the replay of several of them on a tour or whatever, but I'm watching every show live. And so I'm making notes and I'm pulling good stuff from all these shows to play on my radio program and get that Gary and I can use on Tails. And so I'm noting the particular favorites and the three things that particularly jumped out at me, and this is not to denigrate anything else that was played in this great show, were that super upbeat, they love each other, and Oteil's beautiful, sweet vocal on High Time, and in the middle of this gigantic soup of a second set, a 15-minute version of I Know You Writer. Now, I'm not ordinarily somebody that thinks that the length of time is an indicator of musical quality, but it's pretty damn cool that they had that much going on that it took 15 minutes.
I wanted to single out that I Know You Writer because they were varying the form of that song more than ever happened in the history of that song being played. And it goes way back to the earliest days of the Grateful Dead. They used to play it as a short, sort of peppy number, but then it became a jamming standby coming out of China Cat Sunflower almost invariably. But where Dead and Company took it the other night, it wasn't just the length of it, it was the surprising places they inserted new ideas and new places to take the jam. Just between the second iteration of the chorus and then Bobby singing "The Sun's Gonna Shine in My Back Door Someday" verse, there was a long chunk of them taking the dynamics way down, and people taking little mini solos in the midst of it, and it was so surprising in a way that I don't think I've heard it. I Know Your Writer be surprising in maybe ever, but certainly in a very long time. So that's indicative of what this band has been doing all along. Taking this hallowed material and messing with it in the most productive and delightful ways imaginable. So I'm glad you picked out that one in particular.
This right here, friends, is what we signed up to do. We're going to do this kind of music geekery as much as we can, because it's much more interesting than talking about the clothes people are wearing on stage. And it also happens to be the primary interest that I have in this music is the music itself. And it's really, really gratifying to hear the music being played with such inventiveness and engagement. And, Phil Lesh in his autobiography wrote about in the early days of the Dead, they were trying to form a human gestalt. He said they wanted to be the fingers on a hand. They wanted to play as one organism, thinking together and feeling together. And we're seeing that same thing. I mean, that's what this music is about, and what all of us who play this music have strived to get with our own mates, So here we have a band of 6 guys at the absolute top of the profession. And they've got 6 years of history now, or 5 years of history, or whatever it is. And they've really, really learned how to be the fingers on a hand. And we get to watch that and feel that. And because of these amazing cameras up there, we get to sit right in the middle of it and watch them shooting glances across the room.
Yeah, indeed. Shooting glances across the room, like the lyrical reference there. Anyway, yeah, it's really, really exhilarating and inspiring. And, of course, we have been loving this music so long, and it's always so satisfying to hear about new people coming into the tent and new people expressing their love for this music, really young people, older people who maybe strayed away from Grateful Dead music and have come back. People who are finding really revelatory new things happening within the music, not just by Dead and Company, but a lot of people are interpreting Grateful Dead music in all sorts of interesting and satisfying ways, from Joe Russo's Almost Dead to the jazz saxophonist Dave McMurray. There's so many ways to express this music. We now have 6 band members on stage. We don't have lights yet, but we may get interrupted, and we won't complain about getting interrupted, because that means the show is going to start.
To amplify what Gary is saying, I hang out on these Grateful Dead fan pages, and particularly Grateful Dead music and musician pages, talking about, I don't really geek out on the gear and stuff, but I like to talk about the music itself. And it's really, really amazing to see posts from young people. There's a guy just posted a really nice, solo acoustic version of Deal. And it's just see people in their 20s that are sort of deeply appreciating this music and learning how to perform it in their own style. It's really, I mean, we knew that this music was going to live forever because we took it up and put it into our own musical lives, and we're spreading it out. And there's Dead tribute bands from coast to coast playing this music every day, you know. So it's great to see it being played by younger people.
And one of the satisfying aspects of doing these halftime shows is we have talked to longtime associates of the Dead or longtime fans of the Dead. Last night we have Jeff Mattson, who was an early adopter of Grateful Dead music way back in the 70s, when there weren't a lot of cover bands around. He was in one of the very first of the cover bands and has been playing this music ever since. And then we had someone really young, like the amazing young harpist, Michaela Davis, and she is bringing in a fantastic new quality to this music and all the stops in between. Yeah. So, hey, it's showtime. Lights are
All
down.
right, then. We'll see
Enjoy.
you during the break, friends.
Enjoy. You know, when you're hosting a talk show, it probably isn't the best idea to be rendered speechless, but
Yeah. It's true. I was just thinking how glad I am to have signed on to watch this entire tour as closely as I'm required to do because I'm enjoying it so much. The band is just so on top of it that some of the instrumental stuff going on there in that Sugaree was just monumental.
yeah, there's been like one Sugaree for the ages after another on this tour, and this may have been the best yet. My sense of proportion on that is pretty much blown at this point. But one thing I noticed about some of John's soloing on this, one thing John Mayer and I have in common is that among our personal deities is BB King. The difference is that John knows what to do with it, and he. On that Sugaree, there was so much BB in there, that left hand tremolo thing that BB used to do, and just really beautifully evocative of the master,
Interesting.
and yet also completely in John's own voice and John's own style. So, once again, floored. What can I say?
Absolutely. Let me quickly run down the set because if you're watching this as a free preview of set 2, we need you to know what you missed in set 1 so that if you buy the stream, you can go back and watch set 1. You will not be sorry you did. They open with Man Smart, Woman Smarter, which I'm told was the tour bust out. Bertha in Queen Jane Approximately, also a tour debut, Queen Jane Approximately. Brown Eyed Women, Fenario, a.k.a. Pretty Peggy O. Cassidy, which also had some pretty damn fine musical stuff going on, and Sugaree. That's a fine first set there. So if you're watching this now as a free preview, you can go to livedead.co and convert it to a paid viewing, which will entitle you to watch the entire thing as many times as you want to over a period of 48 hours from the time you start. So if you tune in, you can watch set 2 live, then go back and catch set 1. They also have lots of streaming and downloading things for just audio with the entire history of Dead and Company going back to 2016 and huge amounts of other music as well. livedead.co or nugs.net to find out more about all of that.
That's right. And I'm sure our guest will have things to say about this, but before we go to our guest, David, I know you want to talk about a really wonderful cause that we are all too happy to support here.
I do indeed. Thank you. On Sunday morning, I launched a fundraising campaign of direct action for Robin Sylvester, the bass player of Rat Dog for many, many years. Just a lovely human being. I've been a huge fan of his for upwards of 25 years now, and we've collaborated many times in the studio and on stage and stuff. So I have a personal stake in wanting him to stay healthy so we can play music together again. But he has a huge fan base and lots of friends from coast to coast because he's worked with everybody in the hippie music scene around here. And he's had some long-term health problems. If you go to my blog, cloudsurfing.gdhour.com, the first thing you'll see at the top is a link with a photo of Robin in it. And there's a link to a page that explains the history of Robin's health problems that go back several years and describe his current situation. He needs care 24 hours a day. So this is to help him cover the costs of that because I don't know what his insurance situation is, et cetera. So we're asking, I'm trying to raise $100,000 to make this happen. And the last time I looked, we had just about hit $28,000 in these 4 days. So I'd like you to join in this, make any contribution of any size you can. Looking on your screen right now, it says paypal.me/truefunddonations. Every cent that comes into that account from now until future notice goes directly to Robin. So please contribute if you can. He's, as I say, a wonderful human being, a great friend, and just a hell of a bass player, and very much deserving of our love. And by the way, I want to thank Bob Weir and his social networking team for tweeting about this evening. That is going to bring a lot more attention to this cause, and thank you for that.
Yes,
so our
indeed.
guest, let us bring our guest in. He's another good friend and another person who works closely with this music in a very interesting and specific way. He's a mastering engineer who's done a huge amount of the music that you love for Grateful Dead and lots of other musicians as well. He works out of Air Show Mastering in Boulder, Colorado, and he just got a second Weimaraner, and I can't wait to meet her. This is Dave Glasser, everybody. Hi.
Hey there.
I can't help but mention the dogs because I love your previous Weimaraner, Lola, and I can't wait to meet the new one.
Well, she's here. Maybe she'll pop her little head in.
That would be great. Listen, Dave, I want to start this conversation with a very specific question. As it happens this afternoon on one of the Grateful Dead fan pages on Facebook, somebody posted a couple of photos of vinyl records that were of Grateful Dead, but not from a regular Grateful Dead album. And I looked at them and I did a little research, and I discovered what they are is acetates from Artisan Sound in LA from the mastering the vinyl records of Reckoning back in 1981. And I thought, having a mastering engineer on, you are somebody who can explain exactly how all of that works and how a vinyl record gets made. And then maybe that can lead you into explaining how you master CDs and how that's different from mastering for vinyl.
Well, Artisan was a mastering facility in Los Angeles, and they did a lot of the big records back then. And actually, when we get Grateful Dead tapes in to work on now, a lot of them have notes from Artisan on them. That record that you're referring to, an acetate, is cut directly on the lathe, and that is what is sent to the plant to get electroplated, and the stampers made, and then those are used to stamp out the LPs. Lacquers
Okay,
were
go
also...
back and explain what the lathe is.
Oh, a lathe. Imagine a turntable, but instead of having a tone arm that plays back the music, there's a cutter head that inscribes the groove in the record and records the signal onto the record in the form of a lacquer.
So then that's taken to a plant and replicated, and a positive, and then et cetera is made. So that acetate is a direct reference of what was being recorded on to be the album that was going to be pressed and released to the public, right?
And they're also used as review copies for clients to take a listen to make sure that that they approve the cut before it all goes into production. When
you started being a mastering engineer, were you cutting vinyl?
No, I got into mastering when vinyl was sort of on the outs, and I don't have a lathe, and I don't have that that experience cutting vinyl. But a lot of stuff that we work on goes to vinyl, and all the Grateful Dead records are cut by Chris Bellman at Bernie Grundman Mastering, and he does a fabulous job with the vinyl cutting.
Well,
So how
if
does
I may
mastering
ask,
for CD? Oh, go ahead, Gary.
well, we've gotten into how mastering is done for vinyl and how it's done for CD. I think maybe we should go to square one because a lot of people out there aren't, recording fanatics or what is mastering? What does a mastering engineer do?
The best analogy that I've heard anybody give is it's kind of akin to what a colorist does in the film world, taking all the various shots and making them come together to meet the vision of the director. And we do the same thing with the audio. An album may be recorded over a long period of time in different studios, or it may be mixed under adverse conditions, and our job is to make it sound like the artist and the producer heard it in their head,
And to give it a
And
sort of unified sound from track to
and
track and things
to
like that.
exactly, yeah. Mm-hmm.
and I'm guessing that has come in especially handy in this era where we're having this endless flow, or we hope it's endless anyway, of treasures from the Grateful Dead vault, and we're trying to, as faithfully as possible, reproduce, what the band sounded like on stage during a given era. And some,
Yep.
and from night to night, the quality of the recording could change. So you want some kind of uniformity in that, and kind of get inside what the band's intentions were, to produce that sound on vinyl or in the digital world.
And we all have this romanticized idea about what the Grateful Dead recordings are, or should be. And I know I felt this way before I got into the minutiae. I felt that all these recordings are great recordings. Well, Grateful Dead recordings, vary from absolutely pristine, superb, just stay out of the way of it, to recordings that really need some work to bring them up to snuff.
Yeah.
So you can't really remix, like bring up an instrument per se, but you can bring up sort of
Right.
regions of the sonic spectrum and things like that, right? So the bass doesn't overwhelm things and stuff like that.
Sure. Using tools like equalizers and compressors and some new technology that I'm really excited about. Plangent processes is a technology for taking for removing wow and flutter and any other little speed variations that exist in all analog tape recordings, and it's
Wow.
really striking in what that can do.
Yeah.
That also.
I remember.
Go ahead, Gary.
Well, I remember. One of the most, maybe the single most Herculean job that anyone involved with the Grateful Dead's archives ever undertook was the complete Europe '72 box set. Recordings of all those shows, and they were of variable quality. In some cases, there were big problems on the tapes. I had the pleasure of sitting on a panel at the Audio Engineering Society convention with you and others who were involved, Jamie Howarth, and some of the audio detective work that had to be done in finding flaws in the recording and correcting them were just astonishing to me. And I'm sure it was an amazing experience for you and everyone concerned with that box set to work on it.
Oh, that was definitely a highlight for me. And in a lot of ways, it was an exercise in reducing mass. So what started out as 2,000 pounds of multi-track tapes that were shipped to Plangent for transfers turned into hard drives that were shipped to Jeffrey Norman, turned into thumb drives that were shipped to me in Boulder, and then turned into electrons that went to Rhino Records.
That's
Poof.
fabulous.
Amazing.
That's really beautifully put. I remember I was at your place one time when you were working on those, and just Dave has, as you people can imagine, the most amazing listening environment. And our friend Sam Burko had something to do with it being such a great sounding room. By the way, we should give him a shout out. But I remember sitting in that room with you while you're mastering this and just being blown away by the audio quality.
We listened to a Dark Star, if I remember.
I think so. Whenever somebody says, "What would you like to listen to?" my first choice would always be a Dark Star. So probably yes.
Yeah.
Now you are not just a Grateful Dead mastering engineer. You work with a lot of other kinds of music as well, right? And talk about some of your other work and what you're. I mean, you're in the mastering business, and people might want to come to you to master their records.
Let's hope. Well, let's. Well, one of the highlights for me was working on the Harry Smith anthology of American folk music, the CD version of that, which was highly influential to Jerry Garcia and the Grateful Dead. That again was a lot of meticulous restoration work.
Were you working directly with the original records, like the 78s and stuff?
Most of it was the original transfers done in the 50s to tape, but some of the cuts were fresh transfers from better sounding 78s.
Wow. Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned the anthology, because I noted that among your credits, and you won a Grammy for it, by the way. And that, I don't know how to put that in context. You mentioned it was very influential to Jerry Garcia. It was kind of like the holy scriptures for a whole generation of folkies.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
And Harry Smith, to set context, was this eccentric New York artist and collector and just all around amazing guy who put out this box set called the Anthology of American Folk Music. It's been called the Harry Smith Anthology for many years, and it was this really ambitious attempt to gather all these. They were all commercial releases. It wasn't like John Lomax going into the field and recording, sharecroppers, singing or anything like that. These were commercially available recordings that had long been lost or out of print. And Harry Smith gathered them and put them together. And it's where guys like Garcia and Bob Dylan and so many folkies of that era got a lot of their repertoire, and so a lot of the music we hear today, came from those records Harry Smith put out.
And I think it was Peter Stamfel who said that Harry Smith could have chosen any number of tracks for the anthology, but he just happened to choose the exact right ones.
Right.
What else do you work on?
Well, this has been an interesting fall. Been working with Keller Williams on a new project, and Tim Reynolds, who plays with Dave Matthews, on a new project. Interesting classical thing for the United States Air Force Band of the Golden West. And it's a whole variety of things, which is what I enjoy the most. I never know what's gonna be waiting for me when I come into the studio in the morning.
Yeah, I did
a nice
little
way to look at it.
I did a little research this afternoon and went to your page at allmusic.com. And if you go to allmusic.com and hit the first, type in David Glasser and then hit the tab that says credits, you will be blown away by the breadth and the length of your entry there in credits is we're talking about going on 40 years, I think, worth of stuff. And
well, not quite that, but yeah.
It's been a bit anyway, and the range of genres is amazing, so that's a really good way to get into an insight into the work David has done all these years.
And this is
Well,
another one of those we are everywhere situations. He's a deadhead and he likes all this different kind of music, all these different kinds of music, and gets to work with all different kinds of music and bring a deadhead's sensibility to all of this other kind of music. Good work.
Well, David, I listened recently to that album that you produced, "The Roots of the Grateful Dead." That has the original versions of a lot of the songs that the Grateful Dead covered, and the breadth of that is enormous. And so, like a lot of people, I credit the Grateful Dead with permission to listen to Merle Haggard and digging deep into the blues and experimental music, concrete stuff. It's all there.
Yeah, it's true. The Grateful Dead is like the town where I live, Oakland, California, has this great Oaktown logo, and it's big, deep roots and a big, huge tree as well. And we have that here. The Grateful Dead comes from this huge variety of roots and into this thing. And then from it, we're now looking at this huge expanse of music that's being made in the wake of the Grateful Dead and inspired by the Grateful Dead.
Yes. And I got to say, this has been a wonderful year for hearing Grateful Dead music. I started off the concert season, such as it was, with the Wolf Brothers at Red Rocks, and then Billy and the Kids, which was incredible at Red Rocks, and recently saw Phil and Friends at the Planet Bluegrass Ranch, a wonderful little 3,000 capacity outdoor venue in Lyons, Colorado. And next week, if it doesn't snow, we'll be Dead and Company at Red Rocks. And after seeing this first set, I can't wait.
If it doesn't snow,
you never know.
Uh-oh.
you never
Colorado.
know. Yes,
I've been through literally lethal hailstorms around Red Rocks, but I don't think I've been to a concert in the snow there. Wow.
Yeah, I would think late October, mid to late October would be kind of pressing your luck at Red Rocks because you just kind of never know.
It seems they keep on pushing the concert season later and later every year. This is the latest that I will have gone to a show there.
Well, let's hope the weather is propitious for it, because I would hate to miss one. This tour is going so well. So what did you think of the music?
Well, I noticed a theme, which was a theme focusing on women, because all of the songs either had woman or the name of a woman in the title, or was about that. So I wonder if that was a big screw you to Governor Abbott.
Very good catch. Because did you see Mickey's T-shirt?
No, I didn't notice it.
Oh, Mickey's T-shirt was the female symbol, the circle with the cross, and a Steely within it, and in pink, and
excellent.
And it reminded me of when the Grateful Dead, in the very fraught days of the 1970s, after Kent State, put the clenched fist. Oh, there's a clenched fist in Mickey's shirt too, and I remembered when Mickey and Billy put twin clenched fists on their drum heads back in 1970 after Kent State. So I was really, really happy to see that. Check out Mickey's shirt. If he hasn't changed shirts, check out Mickey's shirt for the second set, because it's beautiful. It made me very happy.
Mm-hmm.
When did you jump on the Grateful Dead bus, Dave?
1970 was my first show. Halloween at Stony Brook University in New York. I
was there.
I don't remember a thing about that show.
I
Too
was in
hot?
one of
Too much
my
fun?
I was in one of my most intense runs of Grateful Dead show going in that period. I saw two of the shows at Stony Brook. They played the Capitol Theater in Portchester the following week. Then they played this obscure little place in Brooklyn for a few nights. And it was during that I really don't want to miss a show period of my life. So I was very much immersed in it. But Stony Brook
Hmm.
was a lot of fun. I think that was one
Yeah.
of the last that was one of the last Viola blues they played before they put it away. It may have been the last one. So that was a real pleasure.
And if I remember correctly, that was the night that was a Viola Lee blues into Cumberland blues, if I recall correctly.
I think
That
that's
was
correct.
one of a kind Grateful Dead moment there. Well worth listening to on the archive, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We should probably mention again that we're offering up here a free preview on YouTube or Facebook for Nug's Net's feed of Dead and Company, and the second set is going to commence very soon, and it's available in HD and 4K. And I can tell you from having sat through this entire tour to date, the camera work is spectacular. The musicality of this feed is really, really wonderful. And the audio is also ridiculously good. The band, as you can tell from our enthusiastic behavior, is playing just amazingly well. So I personally recommend that you do this. Buy the feed, and when you do that at livedead.co, you can go back and watch the first set with all those female themed songs and enjoy that. And you have 48 hours to watch the whole thing as many times as you like. There are also season passes available so you can watch the entire tour. And also there's huge library of Dead and Company concerts going back to 2016 available in audio formats as well.
Such a deal. Dave, speaking of listening, speaking of the sound, you were listening to that set through that fabulous system you have there in your studio, so I'm sure it sounded especially nice there.
Wow. It was spectacular. Just super hi-fi. The mix, Derek's mix was great. I love John Mayer's guitar tone, especially when he was playing the Strat guitar.
Yeah.
Just incredible. And it was so much fun watching the interplay between John Mayer and Bob during Peggio was really sweet.
Yeah.
I really enjoy watching them all interact, and also getting to. My wife is particularly into the hands. Like we watch Colbert. She's a gigantic fan of John Baptiste's hands on the piano. So we love watching O'Teal's hands on the bass for the same reason. He's such that.
Oh, he's such an economical player.
Yeah.
If you're just looking at him and not paying much attention, it doesn't look like he's doing that much.
That's right. It's all in the fingers.
He really is.
Yeah, and he's getting he may stay in one position on the bass, but use all 6 of those strings in such a way that he's getting a lot of stuff out there in that. Yeah. We will say for O'Teal, he copped to this the other day. He's been having some problems, so he's been a little less physically demonstrative on stage because of this back problem he's been having. But it's kind of a pleasure to just see him. That makes it easier to focus on the quality of the work and the delicacy of his fingerings and all that. So we don't wish that on O'Teal by any means, but it's there's been a benefit for us in just getting to focus on the music in incredible ways. Hey, something that might amuse you. We were talking about the quality of sound and everything. I actually went to see Phil and Friends last night at the Capitol Theater in Portchester, and in the venue adjacent to the Capitol, Garcia's, their smaller bar, they had on stage this insane working. I think it's a 1/4 scale model of the wall of sound.
The one you had up is the 1/6 version. I think I saw that today.
By someone.
Oh,
Yeah, so, someone told me it was the
I've,
1/6, and it got corrected. He built one of the
I've
Wall of
been
Sound,
wrong
and it
before.
works. And it
It
works.
works.
Yeah, and incredibly detailed visual replication of it. And so, in between sets and before the show, they were playing vintage Dead and Garcia band tapes through the
Oh,
PA,
nice.
and
Cool.
it was
Cool.
stunning. So much fun, and it sounded phenomenal. So that guy's obsession is really an admirable thing. So, congrats.
Anthony Kosha.
That's it,
Anthony
Anthony
Kosha
Kosha.
is his name. Kasha.
Yes.
And that, I mean, so much has been said about the Wall of Sound, but um, that was a spectacular sounding PA system.
Yeah.
I loved all the shows that I saw with the Wall of Sound.
Yeah, I got to see quite a few as well. It was amazing clarity of sound. That wasn't overwhelmingly loud. That was part of the deal. Remember when it first was revealed, John L. Wasserman, the critic for the San Francisco Chronicle, did a column about it, and the headline was, "Shh, the band is playing." And the point was that they were able to throw the sound cleanly without having to make the sound immensely loud, because of the physics of it, the way they would build up the speaker stacks would add up. The more farther away you were, the more of the speakers you were hearing. So each one of them didn't have to work so hard to throw the sound out. It's a brilliant concept by the late, great Owsley Stanley thought that up while tripping, I believe.
Probably.
And it was also the way that the band was playing. I distinctly remember times during the quiet ballads when you really had to lean in to hear what was going on, and then it would build to these enormous crescendos that were just symphonic in their scale. It was incredible.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. One time at the Oakland Stadium in June, I and my mates started out on the third deck of the very, very, as far away from the stage as you could get in the audience. And over the course of the second set, we walked down to the front of the third deck, and then we went down the stairs and walked slowly down to the front of the second deck and then down. And we wound up all the way across the infield, right under Phil's nose, in time for him to hit this big bomb on Wharf Rat. So we got to experience the clarity of that system from many perspectives. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've got to say, with Dead and Company having, shown the ability to fill some stadiums, we've seen them in Boulder, and we've seen them at Citi Field, New York, seen them at Dodger Stadium. Derek Featherstone is achieving some of that clarity as well, because I make a habit of going all over the place and going up to the upper reaches of stadiums at those shows. And it's amazing how much the fine details can be heard, So, kudos to Derek, with a little less wear and tear than that exerted by the Wall of Sound on the crew and everyone else.
Oh, yeah. So what else is new?
We've got 5 band members on stage. That's news. And
Okay.
waiting for that magic 6th. I always kind of wonder which one is the straggler. They'll never tell. But 6 are here now. So
Right.
I'm not seeing any of that.
We could get the lights signal at any second. So Dave, so we don't rudely interrupt you in the middle of something, we want to thank you for being here, because we may not have a chance when the word lights pops up. So it's really been a pleasure talking to you.
This has been fun.
Indeed.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's great to
And
have
I can't wait until I can see you guys again in person at some show or something.
Yes, we've had the pleasure of attending Dead and Company shows together a few times over the years. Dave's company is called Air Show Mastering, and if you're in the recording business at all, you should know that what he does and how well he does it. So you might be interested in his having him work for you. In fact, I'm about to sign him up to do a mastering job on a record of mine. So there. Any second now, they're going to. I was going to call you about that, Dave.
Boy,
now everybody knows.
cutting a deal on the air, man. That's throwing down the
I'm not
gauntlet.
asking for a discount or nothing. I value your work at the top as a top dollar.
Great. Well, yeah, Dave, I was in that room with you, as a matter of fact, a little over 2 years ago, the day after the Dead and Company tour ended in Boulder.
Yep.
Actually co-hosted our radio show from your studio with our friend Rob Bleetstein sitting in. So I really do hope to see you again soon, there or here. If your work ever brings you to New York, I'm around. So let's stay in touch, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dave.
All right.
Okay, now you and I have to bat it back and forth for another few seconds or so.
Yes,
hopefully.
we have the certainty that we have 6 band members on stage, unless someone forgot something in the dressing room or something like that. But anyway, we are hoping. That was great talking to Dave Glasser. I'm not an audio expert, but I've tried to school myself on, as much as I can to appreciate more of the work that people do in the recording world and the mastering world. So, there's some stuff that Dave says that just, but I've acquainted myself with enough of the craft that it only increases my admiration for the people who do this work. And as I said,
I have sat there with him mastering, and the way it works, that when he'll do some incredibly subtle stuff, and you'll listen to it. Okay, here it is without, and here it is with, and it's barely noticeable, but incredibly important little differences. And what he does is sort of just clarify things so that everything is sort of properly represented, and there's no lumps in the frequency response, and that bass doesn't make your bookshelf rattle and stuff like that. And then also, you'll jump around from track to track to make sure that one track isn't quieter than it needs to be in the context of the other ones. And then we'll listen to the transition from one song to the next, and you'll be sitting there. I did this with Henry Kaiser a couple of times, where you'll sit there while the song is ending, and then you'll say, now, and that'll be marking the place where the next song starts. That's part of mastering too, is like that pacing of the record down to the split second of how the fade goes and how the next song starts, and those kind of things. And it's time to go.
Lights.
See you tomorrow, everybody.